welcome to Story Focus. Here, stories come to life. We journey through captivating tales together. Whether you're here to relax, learn, or escape into another world, there's a story waiting for you. Let's dive in. Sophie woke with a start early the next morning. She glanced at the clock. It was only a little after 5, but she was so wide awake that she sat up in bed. Why was she wearing a dress? And she remembered everything. She climbed onto a stool and looked on the top shelf of the closet. Yes, there, at the back, was the video cassette. It hadn't been a dream after all. At least, not all of it. But she couldn't really have been Plato and Socrates. Oh, never mind. She didn't have the energy to think about it anymore. Perhaps her mother was right. Perhaps she was acting a bit nuts these days. Anyway, she couldn't go back to sleep. Perhaps she ought to go down to the den and see if the dog had left another letter. Sophie crept downstairs, put on a pair of jogging shoes, and went out. In the garden, everything was wonderfully clear and still. The birds were chirping so energetically that Sophie could hardly keep from laughing. The morning dew twinkled in the grass like drops of crystal. Once again, she was struck by the incredible wonder of the world. Inside the old age, it was also very damp. Sophie saw no new letter from the pillow shopper, but nevertheless, she wiped off one of the thick roots and sat down. She recalled that the video Plato had given her some questions to answer. The first was something about how a baker could bake 50 identical cookies. Sophie had to think very carefully about that, because it definitely wouldn't be easy. When her mother occasionally baked a batch of cookies, they were never all exactly the same. But hence she was not an expert pastry cook. Sometimes the kitchen looked as if a bomb had hit it. Even the cookies taped out at the baker were never exactly the same. Every single cookie was shaped separately in the baker's hands, and a satisfied smile spread over Sophie's face. She remembered how once she and her father went shopping while her mother was busy baking Christmas cookies. When they got back, there were a load of gingerbread men spread out on the kitchen table. Even though they weren't all perfect, in a way, they were all the same. And why was that? Obviously, because her mother had used the same mold for all of them. Sophie felt so pleased with her son for having remembered the incident that she pronounced herself down with the first question. If a baker makes 50 absolutely identical cookies, he must be using the same pastry mold for all of them, and that's that. Then the video Plato had looked into the camera and asked why all horses were the same, but they weren't at all. On the contrary, Sophie thought, no two horses were the same, just as no two people were the same. She was ready to give up on that one where she remembered what she had thought about the cookies. No one of them was exactly like any of the others. Some were a bit thicker than the others, and some were broken, but still everyone could see that they were, in a way, exactly the same. What Plato was really asking was perhaps why a horse was always a horse and not, for example, a cross between a horse and a pig, because even though some horses were as brown as bears and others were as white as lambs, all horses had something in common. Sophie had yet to meet a horse with 6 or 8 legs, for example, but surely Plato couldn't believe that what made all horses alike was that they were made with the same mold. And Plato had asked her a really difficult question. Does man have an immortal soul? That was something Sophie felt quite unqualified to answer. All she knew was that bodies were either cremated or buried, so there was no future for them. If man had an immortal soul, one would have to believe that a person consisted of two separate parts, a body that gets worn out after many years and the soul that operates more or less independently of what happens to the body. Her grandmother had said once that she felt it was only her body that was old. Inside, she had always been the same younger. The thought of the younger led Sophie to the last question. Are women and men equally sensible? She was not so sure about that. It depended on what Plato meant by sensible. Something the philosopher had said about Socrates came into her mind. Socrates had pointed out that everyone could understand philosophical truths if they just used their common sense. He had also said that a slave had the same common sense as a nobleman. Sophie was sure that he would also have said that women had the same common sense as men. While she sat thinking, there was a sudden rustling in the hedge, and the sound of something puffing and blowing like a steam engine. The next second, the golden Labrador slipped into the den. It had a large envelope in its mouth. Hermes, cried Sophie. Drop it, drop it. The dog dropped it. The envelope in Sophie's lap, and Sophie stretched out her hand to pat the dog's head. Good boy, Hermes, she said. The dog lay down and allowed itself to be patted, but after a couple of minutes it got up and began to push its way back through the hedge the same way it had come in. Sophie followed with the brown envelope in her hand. She crawled through the dense thicket and was soon outside the garden. Hermes had already started to run toward the edge of the woods, and Sophie followed a few yards behind. Twice the dog turned around and growled, but Sophie was not to be deterred. This time she was determined to find a philosopher, even if it meant running all the way to Athens. The dog ran faster and suddenly turned off down a narrow path. Sophie chased him, but after a few minutes, he turned and faced her, barking like a watchdog. Sophie still refused to give up, taking the opportunity to lessen the distance between them. Hermes turned and rushed down the path. Sophie realized that she would never catch up with him. She stood quiet still for what seemed like an eternity, listening to him running farther and farther away. Then all was silent. She sat down on a tree stump by a little clearing in the woods. She still had the brown envelope in her hand. She opened it, drew out several typewritten pages, and began to read.